Hi there, and welcome to ReinardSynth episode number 18. I bought another broken synthesizer, and this time it's an Ensoniq SQ2. The seller said it does not generate sound anymore, so I thought, well, that will be an easy fix. It turned out differently. I did find the reason why it was not generating sound when played from the built-in keybed, this IC here. But these ICs are very rare and very expensive. Unobtanium indeed. And I seriously have to ask myself if the repair will be worth it. Is it beyond economic repair or not? Get it? To BR or not to? Sorry, forget it. Anyway, on the way I did learn something about Ensoniq synthesizers in general, which I will convey during this episode as well, and prepare for some historical musings and surprising discoveries about Ensoniq's line of synths. And also, this episode was shot in my new, cleaned and improved man cave. I finally cleaned the whole room and added a desk drawer to get loose stuff lying around and get more organized. Oh, cool. So without further ado, let's get to it. Let's have a closer look at this. It's not going to be pretty, but I want to check if the caps are working. might lock up. So let's try. Yeah, that's the culprit. So, to summarize what is happening here. So, as said, the scanner IC is broken. And to understand what is going on, we have to look at the schematics of the synthesizer. It is this bad boy that's broken. And if you follow the lines, wait, let's keep it simple. So, here we have the SQ1. You have to think of the front panel and the LCD and the keybed as separate from each other. So, let's separate them. The keybed is a simple traditional scanning matrix, which is scanned by the scanner IC. And the scanner IC is nothing more than a small controller from this family. Note that it is a mask programmable, meaning its ROM, where the scanning program is stored in, is programmed at production time only. See why it is Unobtanium? These ICs are Ensoniq proprietary. No, this IC then sends any pressed key info via the serial link key out to the IC above it, the DUART, the Dual Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. The DUART receives this information via the serial link and passes this on to the CPU, which then triggers the generation of a sound using the synthesizer engine, etc. etc. And by the way, the second serial in-out link of the DUART is used to send and receive MIDI notes. Now, let's move to the front panel and the LCD. This also has a separate microcontroller, which scans the buttons and controls the LEDs and the LCD. Funny thing is that it sends its results first to the scanner IC using the display out line, which merges it with any event from the keybed and sends it via the same serial link key out to the DUART above and then onwards to the CPU. So how is the LCD then controlled? Well, here the DUART is used, the serial outline is used to send commands from the DUART to the front panel microcontroller, which then controls the LCD. Now, if the scanner IC is kaput, what will happen is that no key presses and no front panel button presses will get through to the DUART. We have seen that the LCD is working correctly and MIDI is also working just fine, so the DUART is also just fine. Well, in all, this explains the observed behavior. I can play the SQ2 via MIDI, the LCD works, but front panel buttons and the keybed do not work. I now have to get my hands on a scanner IC. Note that Ensoniq used two versions of this IC. One is also used in the ESQ1, which is, by the way, sought after and why it makes this IC expensive, but also the 6500 version, which was used in later revisions of the SQ series and in other models like the KS32. Oh, and while I was in, I used the opportunity to test if another Ensoniq ESP effects IC I have lying around is working. I plugged it in and it works, so I have a working spare ESP effects IC. While I search for a replacement scanner IC, I will close up the SQ2 for now and wait until such an IC pops up. Anyone? Anyone? Please? Bueller? Bueller? And the bad boys goes into the naughty IC box. Knock for not okay. Bye bye. What really confused me at first was this empty slot here in the SQ2. But to understand that, we have to look at the history of the SQ series. Well, the first one came out, the SQ1, in 1990, and it had just 2 times 512 kilobyte of 8-bit sample ROM. 8 bits. It's not a 16-bit sample ROM, it's 8 bits. Then came the SQ1 Plus and the SQ2, the one I have, which added to this 1 megabyte of 8-bit samples a 1 megabyte of 16-bit piano samples, so that's 512 kilo word. And then came, of course, the 32 voice version, which added another megabyte of 16-bit samples. So in total, you will have 3 megabyte in the 1992 32 voice, 2 megabyte in the 1991 SQ12 version, and 1 megabyte in the 1990 version. Okay, they all use the same OTIS Release 2 chip as the voice engine, which came out in 1989 and was first used in the VFX and then used in the EPS 16 Plus, SQ1 and the KS32. If you look at the details, you see it has 32 independent voices. 32? Hold on. The SQ1 is 21 voice. Oh, and up to 10 megahertz operation. We'll come to that later. OTIS itself can address 2 megahertz, and notice it's already maxing out this address range with the SQ1 Plus 32 voice with this 1 megahertz, 8-bit words then, 8-bit samples and 1 megahertz of 16-bit samples. That's 2 megahertz. So it's already maxed out in the SQ1 32 voice. And especially this active voice register, actually you can control the number of voices the OTIS can generate from 0 to 32. And if you look at the series, the SQ1 had 21 voices, the original one. The SQ1 Plus had 21 voices as well. And the SQ1 Plus with 32 voice has 32 voices. And actually they achieved it by overclocking the OTIS. The original 1990-1991 SQs, the CPU and the OTIS are both running at 10 megahertz. You can also see that in the CPU version, it's a 10 megahertz version. But in the 32 voice version, they are running at about 15.2 megahertz. And also the CPU is a higher spec. And if you then really look at the details, well, I did calculate for you. Here, each voice takes 1.6 microseconds to calculate. If it's running at 10 megahertz, well, that results in a sampling rate of 29.7 kilohertz, almost 30 kilohertz. And of course, they would like to maintain that quality when going to 32 voices. And to do that, you have to increase the OTIS clock to 15.2 megahertz. That's why they had to overclock it. If they would have stuck with 10 megahertz with 32 voices, the sampling rate would have been about 20 kilohertz, which is of course not up to spec for the early 90s. Well, to go back to the original confusion, why this empty socket? Well, I think in 1991 they already planned for the 32 voice version of the SQ and wanted to have an intermediate version so they could do some upselling later on. And they already knew they would overclock the OTIS and offer this 32 voice SQ in the next year, so they designed one motherboard they could use in 2 releases. Cheaper,